Hi, and welcome to Sociology A-Level. My name is Andrew Mann, and I am likely to be your teacher over the next 2 years, should you decide to take sociology. Okay, to give you a little bit of an overview, if you want to study sociology, first and most important thing is you don't need to worry about not having sociology GCSE. You don't need sociology GCSE to study it at A level. The most important qualification you require is a grade 5 English, and that's English language, and that should be a bit of a clue to you that this is a course that involves a lot of writing. Okay. So it really emphasised the fact this is a 100% essay-based course. And then you have to meet the general college requirements for A-level, which is 5 GCSEs, grades 4 to 9. But remember that 5 in English. Now, what exactly is sociology? It's a very difficult subject to actually explain quickly. I think the best thing is if you look at this slide, and if you concentrate on this part here, you can see that there are a number of headlines about issues that you will be very aware of. So things, for instance, about the fact that marriage rates have fallen. They're the lowest ever on record right now. Issues around Black Lives Matters, for instance, about stop and search, the fact that certain communities in this country are more likely to be stopped and searched than others. There's another headline here about why girls are continuing to outperform boys at school, or one here about housework and about who does the housework. Another one here about prisons and about, are British prisons working? A lot about social media and about what are the implications of social media. These are all things that are happening now, okay, and there are all things about which you will get a good insight, okay. You will be able to form opinions about these things. So basically the course divides into 4 areas. You'll do families, and you'll do education in year 1, and you'll do media and crime and deviance in year 2, and research methods really bridges the entire course.
My favourite topic that we learnt about in sociology was definitely the achievement debate, which was in the education module. It's all about how, based on your gender, your ethnicity and your class, you can be either advantaged or disadvantaged in school. And some of these disadvantages and advantages happen before you even go into the classroom. It's so interesting to learn about.
So how will you be assessed? As I said, remember that grade 5 you need in English. That's because this is 100% essay based. So you will have no coursework, okay? This is purely exam based. There's a 2-hour paper in education, a 2-hour paper in the media and family, and a 2-hour paper in crime and deviance. Sounds frightening now, I know, but don't worry, you'll be very well prepared. Lessons, I think that's the main thing I really want to emphasize to you, is that you should really enjoy your lessons. There are some opinions here of some students. Mia, who was a student here last year and is now at university, and a present student, Harry, who's in one of my classes now. And you can listen to those, their viewpoints about lessons in a sec. Basically, we have an interactive whiteboard, which means that lessons can be very pacey. They involve you a lot. You have to be continually expressing how you feel about stuff to other people that you're sitting with in group tables, using little mini whiteboards like this to put down ideas and to show the class. You're constantly working, okay, but it's constantly about what you understand, what your experiences are, and things like that. Okay, so it is very much active. Okay, it's a really active subject, and to help you, you will have not only will you have a presentation through the whiteboard, but you will also have booklets that will help you to organize yourself, but also will give you a structure and should make revision really, really straightforward when you come around to revising in, towards the end of the course.
One thing that I really liked about sociology lessons was the use of booklets. So here's an example from one booklet in the family and households module. It has a graph on it, and then you have boxes that you fill out with questions as you go along. It just makes revision so much easier when you get round to it, and as the lessons are very discussion based, you can sort of, like, as you can see, I've written all over this page, like everywhere. So as people say things that have really good ideas, you bounce off of each other and you can write it all over your page, and then it's so helpful to come back to. It's all in one place for when you come back to revision. I still use mine now. I have this massive folder of everything I learned at A-levels, and I still use it for my degree now.
Sociology lessons are quite interactive. For example, we do quite a lot of mini whiteboard tasks, small group discussions where you get to learn a bit more about your peers, which you don't always do in other subjects. And the booklets make it really good because it keeps all your topics really organised.
So what can you do with a sociology A-level once you've finished? Well, you can use it as an A-level to give you entry onto a degree program. And it can get you entry onto pretty much any degree, any social science, any humanities type degree. Equally, if you want to go into thinking about employment, sociology is really looked on very favourably by people like the police, by social work, youth work, teaching, law. I mean, all those sorts of things. Anything that involves working with the public, really, because there is such an emphasis on dealing with the big issues like race, gender, sexuality, age, and social class.
A sociology A-level can take you to so many places after college. Universities really value a sociology A-level because of the key essay writing skills you're taught and all the foundational knowledge that can just be applied to so many different subjects. Also, the job prospects are so wide in range. There are things like the police, social work, social research, teaching, even business and marketing. A sociology A-level would be helpful for.
Okay, this last slide just gives you an indication of what students, these are present students, and what they've said about sociology. And I would just take a moment or two to read through a couple of those. Take your time, just read them through, and hopefully it will just repeat some of the themes that you've heard me talking about here. And then we'll look at what Mia has to say, who was the student who was here last year, and she will tell you about her views on sort of sociology.
Doing a sociology A-level honestly opens your eyes so much. I'm so glad that I did it. Obviously so glad that I went on to do it at degree level as well. The media topic is so interesting, learning about media effects debate in crime and deviance, which is basically criminology anyway, teaches you about how you shouldn't take statistics for granted. So it might say that a certain group of individuals commit more crime, but is it actually just that they get recorded more? So many things that you would have never thought about before. It just really changes how you see everything.
And then lastly, if you are intending to do sociology with us here at Lewes, then I would very much like you to go on to the Google Classroom that we've set up for Year 11 and students who have enrolled onto the course. And on here you will find a series of tasks. I think there are 6 tasks. Some are things like watching films, others are about a couple of articles to read, some things involve answering questions. There's even some things about doing research of your own and asking questions to members of your family about things. Okay, so it's about giving you a bit of a range of the sorts of things that you can expect, and the expectation is that you will have that prepared come end of August when you enrol onto the course. Okay, so I hope that's been useful. I hope that gives you a sort of a rough idea of the types of things that sociology covers. I think the real emphasis is it's about now, and the emphasis is on the here and now. Issues that you will all be very much aware of, things to do with gender and race and social class and sexuality, all these sorts of things that you will probably feel quite strongly about, and you will probably have a keen interest. So yeah, it's taking that interest a step forward, and that's the thing you really need. Okay, look forward to seeing you in August, September. Bye-bye.
Welcome to the virtual online experience for psychology at Lewes campus. Just to introduce the team, so the team comprises of me. I'm Patsy McCarthy. I'm a lecturer in psychology at Lewes campus, and we've also got Ellie May, also lecturing in psychology. So just to tell you a little bit about psychology. So in order to study psychology, you need to be interested in the factors that underpin human behaviour, so the mind and behaviour, and focusing on why we react in different ways in different situations. And there are different opposing theories that would explain human behaviour. There is the biological approach to explaining behaviour, social approach to explaining behaviour, the cognitive approach, and so forth. And you need to draw all these approaches together and be able to produce a well-balanced argument that will support some of these approaches and the strengths of their explanations, as well as where perhaps the approach overlooks certain aspects of behaviour and doesn't explain it as well. Psychology is classified as a social science, so it sits very well with a variety of other subjects such as sociology, history, biology, and the course also goes very well with certain aspects of law and criminology. So the entry criteria to do A-level psychology is that you will need at least 5 GCSEs grade 9 to 4 or equivalent qualifications. You will need a grade 5 in English language because the assessments include extended written questions. You also need a grade 5 in combined science and a grade 4 in maths in order to help you deal with the scientific and statistical elements of the course, particularly when we look at research methods. So have a quick look here at some of the things that we will be studying in year 1 and revisit in year 2. So for example, we look at social psychology, we look at various research evidence that demonstrates how in some situations we conform to peer pressure, wanting to be part of the group. So that's majority social influence, but we also look at minority influence, where small minorities can produce social change. So there are just a couple of aspects from social psychology and social influence in particular. We look at memory, we look at various models of memory, so short-term memory, for example, long-term memory, and for example, memory in crime. So this would be eyewitness testimony. Why sometimes some memory fail us? Why do we sometimes have inaccurate recall? So we can look at some of the research there and see how actually the findings from research has helped inform certain practices within the criminal justice system. We look at attachments, so those early relationships with our primary caregivers and how they can determine future relationships. And we look at the different psychological approaches or perspectives. So these are different ways of looking at human behaviour: the biological approach, the social and behaviourist approach, the psychodynamic approach, and so forth. They all look at behaviour and come at it in very different ways. So we look at those and see what each one contributes in our understanding to understanding human behaviour. And psychopathology, so what defines good mental health? So we look at things like depression, phobias, for example, and OCD. We look at the characteristics of those disorders and the different explanations, so biological explanations, for example, so that may be things that are inherited or down to neurochemical imbalances in the brain, and looking at environmental contributions to these disorders. And we therefore then look at the different effective treatments, for example, depression or OCD. And of course, research methods. Research methods are the different ways of studying human behaviour, and hopefully you will go on to be able to conduct some research yourself. In year 2, we look at these optional subjects. So at Lewes, we look at relationships. So what factors come into play when we're attracted to other people? And do virtual relationships differ from face-to-face relationships? Schizophrenia, we look at schizophrenia, we look at the positive and negative symptoms of schizophrenia. We look at the impact it has on sufferers and their families and different treatments for the people affected. We also look at addiction and the different risk factors in the development of addiction, and again, treatments for addiction. And then issues and debates. There are a variety of issues and debates in psychology. The most known one is probably the whole nature-nurture debate, how much of our behaviour is influenced by biological factors, how much by environmental. But there's also other issues and debates. For example, do we have free will? Or is our behaviour predetermined? What are the implications of this if we don't have free will? So we look at those sort of wider implications. So these, when you come to sit the exam, this is AQA boards, there are 3 different papers spread out, usually in the summer term, and on 3 different dates, each paper for 2 hours. And this is how, so the first paper would be social influence, memory, attachment and psychopathology. Paper 2 approaches biopsychology and research methods. And then paper 3, issues, debates, schizophrenia, relationships and addiction. The paper is made up of a variety of different questions. The simplest are the multiple choice questions, there may be short answer questions, and then going up to the longer essay style questions. So it gives everybody a good chance of getting a good grade because it covers a multitude of different question styles. So you have 3 lessons a week. Each lesson is 1.5 hours. In those lessons, it may involve sometimes group work, giving joint presentations or individual presentations, developing your research skills by doing projects and so forth that you will need for the exam and, of course, after the exams. As normally, homework assignments will be set on a weekly basis, and there are regular assessments throughout the course, particularly when we complete one of the topics. You would also be expected to extend your learning during your independent study time. There's engaging in wider research and reading. Those students who do that tend to get the better marks. You are provided with a vast amount of resources on our Google Classroom pages, also giving you links to external websites that can help further enhance your learning. In terms of careers, there's a vast amount of psychology-related careers, and here are some of them. We've got health psychology, clinical psychology, forensic psychology, educational psychology, and so forth. So many I won't have time to go into now, but what I have done is there is a link to the British Psychological Association. They've got an amazing careers webpage, and I've put the link on there for you, along with some other supplementary information about careers and work experience. The textbooks we're using, I've put the ISB numbers here for you, more commonly known as the green-haired and pink-haired girl books. We do have digital copies, and you will have access to online digital copies of these books, which are very good and have lots of interactive activities for you to check your learning and extend your learning. You can access these if you bring a laptop into college and use the digital book. But if not, we would suggest that you have a hard copy of the Green-Haired Girl book for Year 1. So getting ready for September 2020, you need to join our Google Classroom. This has been especially set up for you. The Classroom page is already up and running. A number of you have already joined, which is fantastic. If you haven't managed to do that, there's a number of different resources that I've put on there, and activities, recommended activities that will help prepare you for your first year. And this is the Classroom code.